Alright folks, hello and welcome to the SharePoint 101 Introduction to SharePoint Basics webinar presented by Microsoft MCT and TrainSignal SharePoint instructor Bill Kulterman. I'm Chris Colucci from TrainSignal, and I'd like to take a minute to tell you what you can expect in the next hour. I'd like to draw your attention to the questions box in your webinar control panel. Bill will be answering questions today, so please submit any questions you think of during the presentation. Also, if you have any technical difficulties, let us know in the questions box, and we'll do our best to assist you. Today's presentation will be recorded and available to view tomorrow. We'll email you the link after the presentation. After you exit the webinar today, you will be prompted to take a short survey. TrainSignal wants to hear from you, so please take a few minutes to complete the survey. We'll also choose one participant from today's audience to receive a copy of our SharePoint 2010 Administration Training course. But you do have to complete the survey to be eligible to win, so be sure to fill out that quick survey after today's webinar. Also, if you have additional comments or feedbacks, you can send an email to webinars@trainsignal.com. With that, thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Here's Bill.
Thanks, Chris. Welcome, everybody, and good day. As Chris said, I am Bill Kulterman, and I am an instructor here at TrainSignal, have been for many years now, and I'm a SharePoint MCT, and I will be your presenter for today. Let me tell you what we're going to talk about today. We're going to start with that question, what exactly is SharePoint? I'm going to endeavor to explain SharePoint, what it is, and things you can do with it in a very, very high-level overview, but give you a little bit of a better idea of what exactly SharePoint is. We'll do that taking a look at the SharePoint Wheel, which is Microsoft's way of explaining what functionality is part of SharePoint. And then we'll talk about site collections, SharePoint site collections, a very important part. I'll explain that to you, the hierarchy, and what they mean to you and why they are important. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to go hands-on. I'm going to take you into a SharePoint environment, and I'll show you how to create a site. We're going to create a team site, which is probably the most popular site in SharePoint. Next, we're going to go ahead, I'll show you how to create a document library, also a very, very useful and popular feature of SharePoint. And then lastly, create a list in SharePoint. All of this should take us about 45 to 50 minutes. And at the end, we'll have time, an open session for questions, and I'll do my best to answer all the questions that you have. So lots of great stuff. Let's go ahead and let's get going. The first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and I'm going to throw a little poll out there, and I'm going to ask how many people are actually using SharePoint right now. So I see that people are starting to answer. I know that a lot of times, in the point of this webinar and why I really wanted to do this one, I'm very passionate about SharePoint. I like SharePoint a lot. But one of the biggest questions I get when I tell people, yeah, I'm working with SharePoint, I'm teaching SharePoint, I'm learning about SharePoint, they ask me, Bill, what exactly is SharePoint? What the heck is it? I don't understand it, and what can I do with it? And I'm guessing that's why a lot of you are here as it is right now. I'm just going to give you a couple more minutes here, a little more time to answer my poll. It looks like we've got 81% of you have 82%, and I'm going to give it 84, just a little bit more, see if we can get 100% participation out of everybody. All right, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to close up the poll because I think I have my answer. I'm going to share it out so that everybody can see it. And as you can see, like I suspected, 44%, the majority of you don't use SharePoint. Many of you are yes, barely, and 12% no, I'm not even sure I know what SharePoint is. So that's what I expected, and that's why we're all here, and that's great. So why don't we go ahead and let's get started. SharePoint is a web-based platform that creates an environment in which teams of people can collaborate together on various types of projects. Things like budgets, proposals, forms, contracts. Whatever types of projects require input from several sources. The SharePoint infrastructure is a multi-purpose platform that allows for the creation and managing of business websites, internal sites, private sites, and even public websites. Your front-facing public website can indeed be created and hosted in SharePoint. It can be used for document and file management. It includes collaboration spaces. It has social networking tools. Enterprise search to make it easy for people to find the information they're looking for in their SharePoint. And business intelligence. Ways to go ahead and fulfill those business needs. SharePoint can also be used as a web application development platform. But at its very heart, SharePoint is for the collection and storing of information. It is a database. Think of it as a giant container for information. Because it's a web-based program, the only thing you need to access your SharePoint is a supported web browser such as Internet Explorer. SharePoint can help your project stay organized by providing one central location where you can access, work with, or collaborate on various parts of your project. Your site can have a project calendar and task list, helping to keep track of those important deadlines and team member schedules. You can create discussion boards, meeting spaces where people can share ideas and problem solve together. Team members can share the latest information about a project using announcements, current up-to-the-minute information. You can use the extensive business intelligence tools so that you can track, analyze, forecast, and report on many aspects of your business. SharePoint also provides a central repository for any reference documents or other resources necessary for your project, your team, with its document and asset libraries. What this all means is that everything is now in one place, one easy-to-access site that has everything you and your team need to manage and collaborate on that all-important project. You'll have instant access to the most current versions of documents, up-to-the-minute news and information about the project, and easy access to your colleagues. Everything you need right at your fingertips. Let's go ahead now and examine the SharePoint wheel, get a little bit more detailed about the functionality of SharePoint. And remember, this comes right from Microsoft. So what is the SharePoint wheel? It's right there in front of you. The SharePoint wheel is what Microsoft uses to help describe the functionality built into the SharePoint platform. The wheel refers to six abstract functional abilities. Number one, sites. SharePoint allows you to create any type of website for your business, whether it's public or private. It can be an intranet, an extranet, or your full public website. Whatever you need, you can create it in SharePoint. And the great thing about it is that it does not require specialized knowledge. You don't need to be a web designer or a web developer to create these websites. They can be created very simply and easily in SharePoint. It allows for centralized location and management of these sites. Another really great feature of SharePoint. Number two, communities. Community sites let people work together in ways that are most effective for them. How? By providing great collaboration tools that anyone can use to share ideas. You can organize your SharePoint environment into teams, groups, and communities by project, by location, by office or region, or any other division that is necessary. Number three, content. Content management made easy. One centralized location for files. You can set up retention policies, check documents in and out, create a document version history that you can access, manage, and modify easily with your web browser. And SharePoint, as you might imagine, has seamless integration with Microsoft Office 2010 web apps. This allows for simultaneously co-authoring and editing of documents. Number four, search. People can find the information they need easily and quickly with SharePoint's powerful and enhanced search capabilities. SharePoint uses social clues, search that is people and expertise specific to find people and contacts. You can search for internal and external content types. Microsoft tells us that there are over 400 structured and unstructured content types that are supported using advanced content processing with strong linguistics. And right now, there are 85 languages supported. There is also a feature known as fast search. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, fast search is only available as an addition to SharePoint Enterprise Edition. But fast search allows for the addition of tags and metadata to unstructured content like video and audio using linguistic and text analytic technology. This is a really, really great feature that's going to just make everything so much easier to access. Number 5, Insights. SharePoint Insights let everyone access the business information they need to make good decisions. We're talking about business intelligence. People can use the information in databases, reports, and business applications to address specific needs of the business. With SharePoint, you can create interactive dashboards and scorecards, giving the users easy access to the information that they need in a familiar format that they are comfortable with. Very important for your users. And lastly, number 6, composites. SharePoint provides an application platform that you can use to assemble, connect, and configure collaborative business solutions, allowing no-code solutions to complex business problems using SharePoint Designer. SharePoint also allows for custom code solutions to be deployed safely. So if you're not happy with the tools that are already there, you can have a developer create those apps for you in SharePoint. Now let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit about site collections. We're getting a little bit closer into the meat of what we're going to deal with today, what we're going to talk about, and what I'm going to show you. Every implement of SharePoint starts with a top-level site. The top-level site is just the first site. There's nothing special or different about it. It can be any type of site. And every top-level site can have subsites below it. Now, just because it's a subsite doesn't mean it's any less important or that there's anything different about it. It's just been created subsequently to the creation of the first site. And we can have as many subsites off of our top-level site as we need. And of course, as you might imagine, each subsite can also have subsites. So as you can see, we're creating here a pyramid of sites in our SharePoint environment. And all of these sites together create what's called a site collection. Now, you can have multiple site collections. With each SharePoint environment, we can go ahead and have as many as we want. And they can be as big or as small as they need to. Now, a lot of times people ask me, why do I need multiple site collections? If SharePoint can have as many subsites, why can't I just keep adding more subsites? Well, there's a lot of reasons for this, and they are many and varied. But a very common reason to create a site collection is to create a site collection for each individual team, department, or group in an organization. For example, here I have a site collection for sales, marketing, and production. Each with its own administrator, permissions, user groups, site services, and features. Now, in a large organization, you may have dozens, hundreds, even thousands of SharePoint sites. And as the company grows, so might its SharePoint. Now, from an administrative perspective, creating new site collections is way easier to manage than continually adding more subsites, which would ultimately make your site cumbersome and hard to administer. It's much easier to assign a site collection admin to each site collection rather than have one administrator try to manage every aspect of every site. Think about that. If you had to deal with different permissions and different needs and functionality of all these different sites, it's going to be quite a cumbersome task for one person or even a team of people. By breaking it up into these smaller site collections, it's going to make it much more easy to maintain and control that SharePoint environment. And that is basically, like I said, high-level overview what SharePoint is all about. Now, let me go ahead. I'm going to throw out another question here. After my little demonstration here, our little discussion, do you have a little bit of a better idea, a better understanding of what SharePoint is now? And I'm going to give people a few minutes here to go ahead and vote. SharePoint is a really awesome tool. It's something that I've been working with now. I'm fairly new to SharePoint. I don't go back to SharePoint 2007. My introduction to SharePoint was in 2010, but I like it. I can't learn enough about it, and the more I use it, the more I think it's a wonderful, wonderful tool, very, very flexible. And I hope that someday all of you get to love SharePoint as much as I do. All right, we're at 82%. I'm going to give it just a little bit more here to see how we're doing, and I am pleased with the results so far. All right, it looks like we're slowing down, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to close the poll, and I will share it out. And as you can see, 84% of you got a lot out of that 15 minutes or so of my explanation of SharePoint. For the 5% of you who don't understand it, I hope that we can shed more light on it as we go through the rest of our presentation. If not, maybe come back tomorrow and watch the seminar again. And let's go ahead. This is great, though. I'm glad that I helped that many of you. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to close up that poll. And let's go ahead now and let's get right to SharePoint. Welcome to Global Mantics. Global Mantics is the mythical company that our SharePoint installation has been created for. This that we are looking at right now is the top level site for my Global Mantics. This is the top level. What we are going to do now is create a subsite. We're going to go ahead and create a new subsite. Now, to do that, we simply start up here in the upper left corner. You'll see here this Site Actions button. I'm going to click on that, and I get this menu. Now, depending on your level of permissions, and there are several different out-of-the-box permission levels, and you can create custom ones. I am a full administrator of this SharePoint environment, so I have full permissions. I can do everything and anything. These permissions that you see, these actions that we see, are not going to be available to everybody. But if you are a site collection administrator, you will probably have all or most of these. Now, if you are a contributor, which is another default SharePoint permission level, you'll have most of these. But if you're simply a viewer, if you're somebody that your company says they want you to be able to see the information but not necessarily interact with it, you won't have any of this. But we're looking at it as a site collection admin, and what we are going to do now is create a new site halfway down our menu here. So let's go ahead and click on that. We'll have to give it a minute to, wow, that came up fast. We get this window, and you can see right here all of the different site templates that come with SharePoint right out of the box. These are a number of different types of sites that you can create that have their own special properties. And you see they're broken up into categories. We have blank and custom. There's always a blank site available, so that if you don't like any of those sites, you want to create your own customized site, you start with a blank site and have at it. We have content sites, data sites, meetings. These are great. Search sites, like I said, we see that fast search center because I am running the Enterprise Edition of SharePoint. And web databases, which are great if you're using that creating your front-facing web page with SharePoint. But the one I saved for last is the collaboration and the team site. This is what we're going to create now. And if I go to the all categories, it's not just a coincidence that team site is listed first. Like I said before, it is it is probably the most popular site that is used. So I'm going to click there, and we need to come over here to the right, and we have to give our site a name. Now, this site is going to be dedicated for the creation of the annual report. It is the annual report team site. So that's going to be the name of the site. And we are going to go ahead now, we have to give it a URL name. Now, I could simply type in annual report team, no problem. I can name it Bob if I wanted to, whatever I want. But I'm going to give you a little tip, a little piece of advice. Although you can have spaces in your URL name, I can have annual space report space team. A best practice is to not include spaces because it's going to make it easier for you, trust me, later on if you ever need to navigate or do a lot of complex linking and things like that in SharePoint if it's no spaces. So I would advise you to come up with some kind of a naming convention that will allow you to go ahead and not use spaces. And mine is going to be the initials ART, Annual Report Team, Site, all one word. And I could push this create button and our site would be created. But I'm going to go ahead and take us to more options because I want to show us a couple more things. And when we open this up, we see that we can add a description for the site. I don't feel it's necessary for us to do that right now. But I also have a section for permissions. Do I want to use unique permissions or use the same permissions as the parent site, that top level site? We're going to choose to inherit the permissions from the top level site just because we don't have the time to go into using permissions and creating permissions today. Now, the last thing I want to look at is navigation. Do I want to display this site on the quick launch of the parent site? Well, of course I do. I want people to be able to find it. And over here on the left side, you can see where my mouse is. That's the quick launch. So now we're good to go. We're going to create. Give it a minute here while it puts everything together. And there it is. There is my brand new team site right out of the box from SharePoint. And this site behaves exactly like the top level site. There isn't anything different about it except there's no content. We haven't added anything. And if I want to go back to that top level site, I have this home button here. Fooled you. That's just the home for this site. Remember, these two sites are identical. So home is like the home page for this site. I can go up here to this little navigate up button, and Global Mantics is my top level site. So when I click there, it takes me back to my top level site. And you'll see here on the top link navigation bar is a link back to my site. Pretty cool. Very simple, very basic. Now, let's go ahead and let's go into the Site Actions menu for this site. And everything in this Site Actions menu affects only this site. The Site Actions menu that we were in before affected that top level site. So if I create a new site now, that's going to be a subsite of this subsite. If I wanted it to be a subsite of the top level site, I would have to go back up one level to that top level site and go to that Site Actions menu. But what we're going to do now is go ahead and take a look at site settings. And we're going to direct your attention right over here to Look and Feel, this little section here, and you'll see title, description, and icon. I'm going to click there. And remember when I went ahead and showed you more options? It basically took me to this page. It was essentially the same thing. You see I can add the title, I can add a description. It already has the URL and the URL name because I put them in there. I like to do that first, but if you forgot to, you can always go back, or if you need to change it, you can always go ahead and go back and change it. Now, I want to have more navigation on this site. I want to have a navigation on my quick launch and on my top link bar so that I can go ahead and get back to other subsites and my top level site. So how do I do that? Well, I'm going to start with the top link bar right here. Let's click on that. And I'm simply going to choose Use Links from Parent. I'm going to get this warning message, and what it's going to tell me is it'll get rid of any links that I have up here. And that's okay because I don't have any. So I'm going to go ahead and choose OK. And now I have the same links here that I had on that top level site. And now that home button took me back to my top level GlobalMantic site. Let's go back to our annual report team site. Now let's add links to our home site and maybe one of these sites here on our quick launch. To do that, once again, I go to Site Actions, Site Settings, and choose Quick Launch. And now it's going to affect this, and you can see here, this is exactly what I'm seeing on my quick launch. These are all of my links. The first thing I'm going to do is create a new heading for Sites. And it's going to ask me for the web address. What the heck is the web address? I don't know what the web address is. Do you? That happens all the time. Don't worry about it. We're going to go back home. We're going to look at the quick launch on our top level site. Click here on the site's link, which this, by the way, is all new since we created our new site. But I'm going to click here to Sites, which shows me all of the sites, all of the sub-sites from our top level site. And I'm going to go up here to my address bar because this is the address it's looking for. I'm simply going to copy that, go back to my annual report team, Site Settings, Quick Launch, new heading, and paste it in. And I'm going to give it the description, Sites. Choose OK. And see that now it's here. It's at the bottom. Well, I'd like to have it at the top. Not a problem. I can choose Change Order. Sites is down here. It's listed as number 4. I'll select my drop down and change it to number 1. Now we're talking. But now I have to get links here to the other sites that I want. How would I do that? Well, you probably already guessed, new navigation link. So I'm going to click there, and again, it asks me for an address, but not a problem. I'm going to go back to the top level site, copy that address. I can use the back arrow. I know before I went a little bit of the longer way, but remember, we're using Internet Explorer. It's just a browser. I'm going to click on that back arrow, and it takes me right back to where I was. I'll paste that site in, and I will call it GlobalMantic. And here it gives me the option to put that new link under any one of these headings. Well, I want it under Sites, so I'm going to choose OK. Let's go ahead and let's go back up, and now I have a link back to that top level site on my navigation, my quick launch navigation bar. Pretty cool. All right, now our site doesn't have anything on it. It's pretty much empty, isn't it? We need to start creating things. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at the libraries. I'm going to click here to the libraries, and you'll see that we have 3 libraries already. Shared Documents, which we see here on the home page, and this is part of the team site template. I also have Site Pages, which is a link back to that home page, and this page, which is just an informational page provided by Microsoft, which most people get rid of after a while. Once they know how to do all of this stuff, they go ahead and just delete it. And I also have Site Assets, an already existing library. But you're not here to see a library that already exists. We're going to create our own. And there's 2 ways I can go ahead and do that. I can go to this library's link like I just did, this heading, and hit the Create button. Looks familiar, doesn't it? It's the same place we went to when we created the new site, only this time we are going to choose library. And see that it gives me the list of all of the library templates that I have available. I can also go to my Site Actions menu and choose More Options. Same place. Same exact thing, just two different ways to get there. And there are a number of different libraries. Here's the asset library that already exists. And asset libraries can hold all kinds of things: video, audio, pictures, documents, whatever kind of information you have. But we're going to go ahead and select a document library, because a document library is probably the most popular, again, just like the team sites. So I'll choose document library, and I have to give it a name. So I am going to call this Report Documents. And again, I have a More Options button. And just like we saw with the site, I'll show you a way to go ahead and get back in and change and adjust these things after the fact, but I like to do things first. Again, I have a place for description. Navigation. Do I want to display this document library on the quick launch? Oh yeah, I sure do. I like navigation. I like it to make it easy for everybody to get where they need to go. Document version history. Now, I talked about this a little bit in the intro. You can go ahead and set it up so that as people are working on documents together, it will save versions of them. And this is important in a lot of industries. Now, I'm not going to get into that today. We don't have enough time for me to deal with that, but we're going to go ahead and leave it at no. And I want to show you document template. Right now, and by default, the document template default is a Microsoft Word document. But if I select this drop down, this little menu here, you see I can make it an Excel spreadsheet, a PowerPoint presentation, a OneNote notebook. If you use OneNote, how cool is that? A SharePoint Designer web page, basic pages, web parts pages. These are all things we won't have time to get to today, but they're really cool, trust me. And if you don't have Office 2007 or 2010, if you have an older version, you can make it default to an older version of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. But I have Microsoft Office 2010 loaded on this machine, so I'm going to leave it at the default and choose Create. And there we go. This is our document library. Notice the report documents has been added to our libraries, and we don't have anything in it. It's blank, it's empty. But there is a big plus sign here that says Add Document. So I'm going to click there, and it gives me a place to upload the document. Now remember, we talked about SharePoint being a container for information, for documents, for everything you've got. What you want to do, and one of the really important things about using SharePoint and using document libraries, is it is one central location. Think of where you're at now. Do you work with a shared drive? Are you in an organization where a lot of people use a shared drive? You're working on a document, you have to download it, and if you're working on it, nobody else can work on it, and maybe you put it on your machine and you save it there because you're going to be working on it on and off, and you don't want to tie everybody else up, but then you forget to upload it. So you've got the most current document on your machine, but nobody else can see it. With SharePoint, you work on the document in SharePoint, and when you make changes, it saves to SharePoint, and everybody has the most current information. You can, in SharePoint, even have it so that 2 or more people can be working on the same document at the same time. This is why SharePoint is so important. Much less stress, much easier to deal with stuff. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to browse. It'll open up the document library on my local machine, and I'm going to select the document. I'm going to choose the business plan report, choose Open, and then OK. And there it is. That quickly, it uploaded that document into my SharePoint database. Pretty cool. Now what if I got a bunch of documents I have to upload? Well, notice up here we have the ribbon. And if you're using Office 2007 or 2010, you're familiar with the ribbon. Now this is a little bit different. You don't have any of these commands on your ribbon, but it is still the ribbon. And I have a contextual tab here for library tools because I'm in a library, and I have 2 tabs, Documents and Library. We're going to go to the Documents tab right now and choose to upload a document. And notice it's 2 parts. If I click here, I get the same box I had. If I click down here, I get the choice to upload multiple documents. But they just make it easier and easier, don't they? Let's go ahead and browse for files instead. Again, it opens up my document library, and now I can select multiple documents. And that quickly, it's going to upload all 4 of those documents for me right into my document library, and there they are. Now, let's go ahead now and let's take a look at one of these. You notice when I hover over, I get this little drop-down arrow here. Let's take a peek. And you see this menu gives me a lot of options, 3 of which are View in Browser, Edit in Browser, and Edit in Microsoft Excel. You don't even have to have Excel or Word or Office on the machine to work with these documents. If you're at a remote location, you're signing on to your SharePoint from there, and that machine doesn't have Office on it, no problem. Go ahead and click on View in Browser. There it is. It went ahead and opened up that document right in Internet Explorer for me. That is the SharePoint Office web apps. And web apps are a special add-on for SharePoint. You have to turn them on, you have to install them, but it's not a big deal. It's a very easy process. And this is just, we just are viewing it. We're not able to do anything, but if I want to edit in the browser, I can go ahead and click there. And now I have a simplified ribbon for Excel. The web apps are a light application of the different Internet Explorer, the different Office applications. It's not the full-fledged thing, but you can do a lot with them. And if you need to go ahead and open it up in Excel, because if there are options in here that you don't have, you can click to open Excel. Now I'm not going to do that because this is an Excel class, and it's going to prompt me for my user credentials and password, and that's just going to take away time. When I'm done, I simply need to go ahead and go back and see that it is right back into my SharePoint. Now, let's go to the other tab for a minute and take a look at Library. There's a lot of settings in here, but what I want to do is go all the way over here to the right to Library Settings. Let's click there. Right here, Title, Description, and Navigation. This looks kind of familiar. Doesn't this look like the Site Actions, the Site Settings menu? This is what I was telling you before. This is just like when we were creating the library, when we choose more options, this is where we would go ahead to effect changes in there. And there are a lot of other things here that pertain to this document library. And if I needed to delete the library, I would go right here. All right, let's go ahead now. Let's get back up to our home page. And let's take a look at lists. Although there are only 2 here, we have 4 that have already been created for us. Calendar, which is just that, it's a calendar, but it's a team calendar. Everybody on the team, everybody who has access to this website, sees this calendar. So what do you think? It's a great place to put meetings, deadlines, tasks, people's vacation days, so you know who's not going to be in the office when. It's a great, great tool. We also have a task list, which is simply a to-do list. Announcements, up-to-the-minute information. And links. Links to content, links to web pages, links to all kinds of different things. Whatever links you need for your team, for your project, you can create a list for it. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to create a new list. And it's just like we did with the library. We can create here or we can create from the Site Actions menu. I'm going to choose Create Here. Hey, again, we're back here. Only this time, instead of Library, we're going to choose List. And there's the different types of lists that we have. And as always, along with the blank library and web page, we have a custom list if one of these isn't going to serve your needs. We see our announcements, the calendar, contacts is what we're going to create, but there are others, links and tasks. Let's go ahead and let's create a contact list. Very simple. And I'm going to just call it team members because we're going to have the contact information for everybody on our team. And again, I have a More Options button where I can add a description. Do I want this to appear in the quick launch? Yes, I do. I'll create it. Looks a lot like the library, doesn't it? But look up here. We have list tools instead of library tools, although the options are much the same. There's even a list settings button over here. Let's go ahead and let's add a new item. Aha. Now, I keep coming back to think of SharePoint as a container for information. We have to stop thinking about things only in terms of documents. Because, yes, we have a place for Word documents, Excel documents, PowerPoint presentations, OneNotes, any kind of pictures, whatever. But SharePoint is more than that. We're going to create these lists just in this container, in this little form here. It's not going to exist as a document. I'm not going to open this in Excel or Word. It's just information. It's just collecting information. Now, I'm going to just put in some information about myself. And we will see what this looks like. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and, of course, it would help if I could spell train signal right, wouldn't it? There we go. I'm not the best typist, gang, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to save that. And there it is. And you'll see it has column headers, just like if it were an Excel list. But it's not an Excel list. It's not been created in Excel. And if I want to view it, I simply click it, and it gives me that form with all of that information. And if I have the permission, I can edit it and add more information to it that way. And think of all of the types of lists that you can create right in SharePoint as opposed to creating it in Excel or in Word and then importing it or uploading it and managing it. It's much more easy to deal with just as information rather than a document. Now, I want to go ahead and switch over. You'll see up here on my browser I have another tab. This is an alternate SharePoint site. This is another GlobalMantic site that I have already created. I've had it for quite a while. I actually, if you ever see any of my SharePoint courses, you'll see this extensively. But I've got a lot more lists in here that have a lot more information in that we can take a look at. One of the things I want to take a quick look at is the GlobalMantic's employees. Look at that. Now that's a contact list. This list is several pages long. And that's what I'm talking about. That's all that kind of information. And if we wanted to go ahead and view that item, it's all right there. And although we don't have time today, you can set up these lists to have whatever kind of information you need in it that you want to show. Let's take a look at announcements. Here you go. Up to the minute information. And again, none of these are documents. None of these are Word documents. None of these are Excel. It's just information in the database organized by using a form. Even the calendar, here's an example of our calendar with plenty of items in it. Wow, we got monthly meetings like crazy, don't we? All right. And that is how we go ahead and create SharePoint lists. And that, I believe, is the end of the demonstration. That's about all the time we have for now. So let me go ahead and open this up to you guys. But first, I'm going to throw out another poll question for you. After seeing this, can you guys think of ways that SharePoint can help you in your company, your business right now? And we'll give it a couple of seconds here. In just a minute, I'm going to open it up and I'll start taking people's questions. I know it's getting close. Boy, that time went by fast, didn't it? All right, we seem to have bottomed out here, so let's go ahead, let's close the poll, and I'm going to share it out. And I'm glad to see that 80% of you here are able to go ahead and, just from my little presentation, see ways that SharePoint can help you. SharePoint is a wonderful, wonderful tool. It's a great resource. All right, let's go ahead. I'm going to hide this poll, and now I will begin to take some of your questions. Let me go ahead and go back in here and see what I've got. Okay, do subsites equate to the tabs you see in the default template? By Kristen. I'm not exactly sure I understand that question, Kristen. If you can be more specific in that, I'll try and answer that. Let's see. Is there any integration between SharePoint 2010 and Exchange 2010? Oh, yes, absolutely. SharePoint integrates wonderfully with all of the Microsoft Office programs. They go hand in glove. You can link your SharePoint calendar to your Outlook calendar. You can bring things in and out. Yes, there is integration with the entire Microsoft Office suite. A couple people have asked, is this webinar is going to be available afterwards? Yes, they're recording it right now, and tomorrow sometime it will be available online on the TrainSignal website. They are going to send you, I believe, an email with a link to it so you can come back and watch it again. Does SharePoint take place of the old methodology or DB web app clients? Let's see, okay. We don't have enough time to get into that. Somebody asked, are you creating a new top-level site or a sub-site of GlobalMatics? No, I created a sub-site of the GlobalMatics. You would have to create that top-level site during the installation process. You get that set up. We would actually have to go to the SharePoint server itself and use the administration console to do that. Somebody asks, I'm using a team site, but is this a top-level site or a sub-site? Like I said, in my example, and actually continue to ask, how can you tell the difference? Well, you can't, and that's what's good about it. To your users, there should really be no way to tell unless you set up your navigation in such a manner. I mean, if I go here to my breadcrumbs, come on, there we go, it's obvious which is the top-level site, but they both work exactly the same. And like I tried to tell you in the beginning, the top-level site has no more importance than any other site. It's just the first one. So then the term site in SharePoint always refers to a sub-site technically. Essentially, yes, like I said, except for that top-level site. And it really is no different than any other. It appears that SharePoint is a collection of websites centrally located under a main site that admins can control access to for others, much like AD controls access to servers and folders. True. Yes, in a very basic way, that's a good way to put it. And that was from Thomas. Yes, that's an excellent way to put it. SharePoint is a collection of websites, and like I showed you in the beginning, site collections. So you can silo these sites into these site collections to help ease of administration. Now, you're still going to have a top-level administrator, somebody who, or team of people who has oversight over the entire thing, but by allowing people to be site collection admins, they're not going to have all of the top-level permissions, but they are going to be able to go ahead and control their site collection, because different site collections may need different features and functions and aspects of SharePoint. I notice everything is HTTP. Is it recommended to use HTTPS, or is that not needed? Nick. It depends on your application of it. If it is a site that people will be able to sign into from externally, then yes, you definitely want to use a secure HTTPS. If it's just an internal site, you may not feel that that's necessary. If you are comfortable that your SharePoint environment is behind a firewall or some sort of protection so that it can't be gotten to from the outside. Can we have additional document templates in the document library? I'd like to have Visio files there. Yes. And actually that's a great, I can even show you. Let's go to my libraries. One of the libraries, oh, why is it not? Oh, you know, that's a site. I take that back. Let's go ahead and let's go back here. For Visio, and Visio is a sort of an unusual animal. Visio, you have a Visio process repository, which is a separate site. It's not a library per se, but it's what you would want to use if you're going to be working with Visio processes, and it's a way to go ahead and store those Visio documents. I mean, if it's just a Visio document that people look at, then you can put it in an asset library without any problem. But if people are going to work on Visio documents, you're going to have to create a Visio process repository site. And Visio is, you have to go ahead and enable Visio services, which is something the top-level admin or even the site collection admin. And actually, this is a great point about site collections, because maybe one site collection needs those Visio services and another site collection doesn't. If you were to have all of your sites under one collection, if you hadn't broken it up, you would enable those services for every site, and that would just be using up resources for all these sites that don't need it. One site collection only can have Visio services running on it. And it works really, really well with Visio. There's a lot of really cool things that you can do with Visio and SharePoint. Again, if I had the time, boy, I could show you some really neat stuff. Does choosing Word mean that only Word documents can be stored there? Will it support PDFs? Yes. I'm sorry, that was a two-part question. No, you don't have to only store Word documents. If you saw in my example, that document library, even though we had selected the Word document template, I was able to store all different kinds of Word documents. And yes, you can store PDFs in these libraries. What I want to show you, and I should have done this earlier, I just thought we were going to run out of time, is if I go to the new document, by choosing Word document template as my default, that's all that means. If I go ahead and click on this now, it's going to open up Microsoft Office Word for me, and I'm not going to sign in because that's a big hassle and trying to get that to go ahead and do that. Yeah, see, now it's going to walk me through this. But yeah, it just is, if you want to create a new document right in SharePoint, instead of uploading it, that's the default template. And there are ways to add more templates and different content types, but again, that's a little more in depth than we have time to go into. How does file locking work when more than one person is checking out the same document? How can you prevent one person from changing same data that someone else is changing at the same time? Okay, that's an excellent question. And it's really flexible. If you go ahead and enable the ability to check documents in and out, by default it's not set that way. Right now we can all go ahead and work on these documents at the same time. But if you enable check in and check out, nobody else can work on it. If you check the document out, nobody else can work on it while you have it checked out. And that's a great way to prevent people from making any changes. If you have chosen to not check documents in and out, if you want people to collaborate on them together, they cannot work on the same area of the document at the same time. If I had more time, again, I could open up another virtual machine and I could work on with my document simultaneously. But you will see, as you're working on the document, what you would see is brackets around, say it's a Word document, the paragraph where some person is working, and it'll show you who it is. It'll tell you exactly who that person is. And if you have more than one person, you can see it. You don't see it real time. You're not going to see them typing, but you'll see they're working in that. And if you save and refresh, you'll see their changes. Is Web Excel also run macros? I don't want to write one. They're just use. That is a good question, and I will be honest with you. I don't think that you can use macros in the web apps. I'm not certain, but let's find out together. Yeah, see, I didn't think so. There's no place for this. Is all you get. These tools up here are the only tools that you're going to have on the ribbon. There are no more tabs except for insert, but that's just tables and hyperlinks. So yeah, no macros in the web apps, and I didn't think so. Like I said, it's a very light version of it. Does SharePoint work well with other browsers, Firefox, Safari, Chrome, etc.? It prefers Internet Explorer, I'm not going to lie to you. I have used it with Chrome. I've not tried it with Firefox or Safari, so I can't speak to those. I have had it work fine in Chrome, but it really prefers Internet Explorer. I'm not going to lie to you. Can you pull a copy of the corporate calendar to the team site and then add things that only relate to the team to it? Yes, absolutely, without a doubt. You can pick and choose exactly which calendars you want to bring in. Yeah, that's not a problem. Yeah, that's excellent. Can the calendar be populated by Exchange? Yes, absolutely. Can you have a public website form that can put data in a list? Kevin, that's a great question, and I hate to say it, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'll be honest, I'm not well versed in SharePoint and how it works as a public website. Ferrari.com, their site is hosted entirely in SharePoint. Go check it out. I'm not really sure. I honestly can't answer that question. I'm sorry. Is there a way to sync a calendar and contacts that exist in Exchange? Zach, yes, absolutely. Can a list of users be pre-populated from Active Directory without resorting to programming? Yes, absolutely. Will there be other webinars? I don't know. Was the Global Mantics employees manually created? Can they be auto-pulled from Active Directory? Yes, they can, Gunther, but I will also tell you, I did this, and honestly, I pulled this Global Mantics employees in from Excel. This was a list that was in Excel, and there is a way to go ahead and just import it from Excel. It was very simple, very easy. It looks as though you need to assign a SharePoint administrator even though individuals create and load a lot of the info. Yes? Yes. You have to have an administrator. Somebody has to keep track of this mess because there are a lot of things going on behind the scenes. You can't have, I mean, maybe you can. If you trust everybody in your organization to have full control, then have at it. Somebody has to be able to, just for the sake of managing permissions alone, you always want to have an administrator. And like I said, grouping your SharePoint into site collections allows you to have very focused and very detailed small groups of site collection admins. Can SharePoint be used with Microsoft Access or Open and Edit Access databases? Yeah, yes and no. It can work with Access. There are limited things that you can do with Access. You can bring an Access database into SharePoint, but SharePoint's database is SQL. So it's the Access. If you bring it in, it's just going to dump it into SQL. I'm not an access expert, and unfortunately our access expert is in Seattle today, but I believe that it is very limited in terms of what you can do. Let's see, I'm seeing a lot of the same or similar. Does SharePoint work with Office 365? Yes, it does. And again, I'll be honest with you, I have not gone down the Office 365 road yet, but I've heard that it's great, that there are a lot of great things that it can do. Again, it's Microsoft. They want everything working together. Do SharePoint users need to be users in Active Directory? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. If I have offsite people that need to use SharePoint library, can I add them just to SharePoint and not my Active Directory? I got to be honest with you, Vishnu. I'm not exactly sure about that. I would have to check on that and let you know. How many types of permissions are there, and what are they? You know what, Wayne? I can show you that really quickly. Let's go ahead and let's get here. These are the different default permissions: contributors, designers, owners, readers, viewers, and then your top-level admin. But you can create, the great thing about SharePoint, very flexible, you can go ahead and create as many permissions groups as you want. See that? You have create groups and grant permissions. All right. Well, expansion Outlook. How long has SharePoint been out? Oh, he's left. All right. I'm not exactly sure. Can SharePoint pull in my existing folders from my shared drives, or is this a folder by folder creation process? Yeah, unfortunately, Brian, you do have to create those document libraries one at a time, but you can link, you know, I showed you how you could go ahead and upload multiple documents, so it's actually a pretty easy process. What MS Server products are required for a SharePoint server? I'm running this with simply, we're using server Windows 2008 Server R2, I believe Enterprise, and we have, you know, Active Directory and a domain controller. SharePoint installs IIS. Oh, we are really getting. So what is a page in SharePoint? It all sounds like subsites. Oh, good question. Good question. Let's go ahead and let's go back here. And let's go to get back here. This is a page. If I wanted to add another page, I could go ahead and create another one. I have to edit. And you have editing tools to go ahead and create, whoops, I just closed it. Sorry about that. You can go ahead and you can create new pages. And just think of it like a regular web page. You would have different pages, and there are abilities to add web parts and really get into laying out. I mean, here's text layouts. You can add different columns and sections for the different pages, and they are different than the site. It's just like a website, and a site has pages. All of the sites that we looked at today only have one single page. They're all very small. Can I run SharePoint in a VM? Yes, you can. In fact, I'm doing it right now. If I can peek behind the curtain here, you can see that here's my domain controller, my SharePoint server, and my client machine. I hate to break the illusion. Is there any functionality in SharePoint 2010 to send updates to members, contacts via mail about documents, etc.? Absolutely. RSS feeds and alerts for all documents, all document libraries, all lists. That is a really great feature. Let's go ahead and let's go to our library here. You can set up for alerts, emails, and RSS feeds for everything. Where does one navigate to have full control, got permissions of all sites and all collections? You would have to go to your SharePoint server and go to your administration console for that. Can I migrate my data from SharePoint 2007 to 2010? Yes. Can we do info path forms on Windows SharePoint, or do we need Office SharePoint? Info path, you have to have info path, and info path also integrates just tremendously with SharePoint. If I go ahead and go to libraries, no, it's not in here. Oh, I went to create new site. I'm sorry. I wanted to create more options. I go to libraries. Your forms library integrates with InfoPath. If you put documents, docs, or PDFs into a library, will its contents be found by the main search bar on the site? If you turn on the crawler, the web crawling in the search, there's a lot of work that goes into setting up search in SharePoint. Again, I don't have the time to do it justice today, but yes, you can set it up. You can also create an entire search site that will go ahead and have really fine-grained search permissions, search functions. Great question, Corey. For managing projects, we use routing sheets. As the project progresses, the routing sheet is moved to the next responsible person. Can we do this with SharePoint? Yes, indeed you can. In SharePoint, we call those workflows, and that is a very wonderful and let's go here. Whoops, that wasn't what I wanted. I went too far. Workflow settings. Yes, workflows can do exactly what you're talking about. Wonderful, wonderful feature. Is there any way to force the checkout if a user simply forgot to check out? Unfortunately, no. But if you are the site collection admin and you have access to those permissions, you can go ahead and force that checkout too. I'm assuming you mean check back in. If somebody checked something out and then forgot to check it back in, yeah, you can go ahead and do that way. But there's not an automatic way to set it up. Is there any link to an ebook to get more information and specifically focus on commercial websites? There probably are tons of books out there, and unfortunately, I have no first-hand knowledge of any of those right now, but I'm sure that it's not hard to find. Let's see. Can we assign quota for shared documents? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Is that a quota as to how many documents can be in a library? Or how many, the limits that people can put in a library? Or, I'm not, if you can clarify that a little bit for me, maybe I can go ahead and works fine in Firefox. Thank you, Tyler. Like I said, I haven't used it with Firefox. Are backups of documents stored in the document library in case users remove docs on accident? No. But if you are backing up your SharePoint site regularly, your SharePoint libraries, it wouldn't be an issue. And you can also, in your permissions, you can limit people to not being able to delete documents so that that doesn't happen. Can you secure documents from one collection site to the next one? I'm not sure I understand that exactly either, Sharon. I'm sorry. How did you come about obtaining the tabs in the GlobalMantic site? I'm going to assume that you mean these here or these up here. These come with, these we have, we showed in the very beginning when I was with the navigation, and that's under Site Action, Site Settings, top link bar. I can go ahead and add in headings and navigation tabs that way. Using access to edit lists in SharePoint is very handy. Thank you, Cassandra. Like I said, I'm not an access expert. Will not using IE cause lots of errors and issues? No, I don't. Oh, Tim has left, but I don't believe that it will. Can you convert a OneNote notebook directly into SharePoint? David, yes. Can you upload folders into SharePoint? No, but you can upload the documents into a document library. There's no folder structure per se in SharePoint. Can you publish many commercial websites with different domains under the SharePoint host? Yes. All right, I think we're at the end. Well, thank you, everybody. I hope that you all enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed being here with you. Thank you very much.
All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks again for attending and for your participation. As a reminder, today's webinar was recorded and will be available to view tomorrow morning at trainsignal.com/blog/webinars. And we'll also email you the link. And remember, as you leave, please take a minute to fill out the survey for a chance to win the SharePoint 2010 Administration Training Course by J. Peter Procisi. We will email the winner. Thanks again, and have a great day.